Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Tito, it is always a real treat to hear you give a speech, Tito. This was a number 7 speech, the purpose of which was to research the topic. So ultimately the purpose was to do all this research and then present the research in an informative and hopefully somewhat educational and possibly entertaining way. And you did all of that in a most wonderful way, and as only Tito, our favorite Tito, can do. I like the way you started right off your opening sentence. In July of 1969, again, okay, now what's this all about? Especially when they don't call it space for nothing. I actually was there. I'm giving away my age. I like the way that you used words. And as you go through the manual, each speech builds on the previous project. So one of them worked with was orbital debris versus space junk, and I like the way that you really held that contrast up. You had a clear opening, body, and conclusion, so the organization of the speech was, again, carried forth from before. I like your use of images throughout. For a researcher topic, there were just so many of these wonderful images, and space can be a little cold, I suppose. But things like, like the Millennium Falcon trying to navigate through an asteroid field. Again, all of us have probably seen that, and so we just immediately have this visual. I like the way that you chose to use a card to keep your facts, and you consulted the card whenever you were giving the facts. I would recommend that even if you have all the facts memorized, because in a way when you give a fact and are checking it, it actually gives more credibility, even if the card is blank. So that was very well done. The alternative is to stay behind the lectern, and your speech was more effective for having gone out there. And you adroitly wove the facts into the speech and made it very entertaining and drew us to a clear conclusion. I liked your vocal variety, the way you used pitch, volume, and pace to really emphasize your speech, and I thought you had good pauses throughout. Now, given that this is a number 7 speech, I have a total of 5 suggestions that might have improved the speech a little bit. First, right at the very beginning, as effective as your beginning was, it would have been a little more effective if you'd had just a little bit more of a pause. You kind of came out and launched right into it. A little bit more of a pause to just draw our attention in. In terms of the organization, the connection to the title, they don't call it space for nothing. Your message was, hey, it's really not that big a deal, and space is much more sparse than we really think. It would have been effective if you got to that point a little more quickly in the speech. You talked a lot about the space junk, but ultimately the message was, we hear about these things and it's really fairly sparse. And which leads to the next suggestion, which would be to try to get a more visual image of what that sparseness is like. Maybe like imagine this room, and you might think of these things as marbles, but they're really like grains of dust or bacteria. Something that give us a strong image. And the final thing about the card, like I noticed that even though this was a number 7 speech, there was, I saw a little bit of shaking in the card. So maybe find a strategy of kind of not doing that. But overall, my favorite part was the image of bumping into Nicole Kidman and comparing that with something which is a rare event. Well, you never know. She may like Monterey, and that could happen. So, thank you, and I look forward to your 8, 9, and 10.